My wife watched me raise her daughter, pay tuition, and walk away in silence when she chose her real father, and learned too late what losing me cost. I held her when she got her first period. I drove through a blizzard once because she was scared at a sleepover. I paid for braces. I got screamed at for refusing to let her go to Cancun with her boyfriend when she was 16. I bought her a used Corolla the day she got into college, and apparently none of it meant a damn thing. Rachel didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. She's thinking of moving in with her real dad, just like that. Like she was reading off a grocery list. She didn't even say Jenna's name, just she, as if Jenna was already halfway out of our lives. I was standing by the kitchen counter, my hands still wet from rinsing out my thermos. For a moment I thought I had misheard her. I was tired. Maybe she meant for the summer. Maybe Greg, the real dad, had offered to help with an internship or something. I asked, "What about school?" Rachel tucked the loose hair behind her ear and sighed, like she was already bored of the conversation. She wants him to help now. She says it's about reconnecting. Reconnecting. I wiped my hands on the towel. My knuckles had turned white. I didn't even know I was gripping the edge of the counter that hard. Reconnect, I repeated. After what, 15 years of radio silence? He's trying, she said. And she's old enough to choose. Old enough. That's rich. Old enough to choose the man who missed every birthday since she was 10, who didn't show up for her high school graduation, who sent a Facebook thumbs up when she got into college instead of a phone call. But sure, let's reconnect. I didn't say any of that. I just nodded once and walked out of the kitchen. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed we hadn't shared in over a year. Not really. Rachel still slept there, but emotionally we'd been co-tenants with good credit scores and bad timing. I stared at the small jewelry box on her dresser, the one I bought her on our 5th anniversary. She hadn't touched it in months. A thin layer of dust dulled the shine. In the closet, behind a row of shirts I never wore, I found the thick envelope labeled Jenna Fall Term. Tuition was due in 2 weeks. We'd planned ahead. Of course I had. I always did. Financial aid covered some, but we'd agreed to split the rest. I walked back downstairs, my boots heavy on the floorboards I'd laid myself. I set up my desk. I logged into the bank. I removed my name as CO signer. Click. I logged into the college portal. I canceled the pending payment authorization from my account. Click. I went into my email drafts and deleted the message I'd written last month, asking if she needed anything for her dorm. Click. I stared at the screen for a while after that, not doing anything, just being still. Outside, the wind picked up. A storm was coming. The windows groaned like the house knew something was breaking. I stood up and turned off the desk lamp. In the hallway, Rachel walked past me toward the laundry room, her arms full of towels. She didn't ask what I was doing, didn't even glance at me. And that was the softest goodbye I ever got. No tears, no arguments, just silence and a few quiet clicks. The morning I dropped off her mini fridge, Jenna barely looked up from her phone. "Thanks, Frank," she muttered, tapping out a text while I hauled it up 3 flights of stairs at the dorms. No elevator, of course. Concrete steps, peeling walls. The whole place smelled like instant ramen and body spray. She didn't ask how my back was. Didn't offer to help. Just let the door close behind her as I stood in the hall. Fridge in one hand, box of kitchen supplies in the other. I set everything down in silence. Inside her room, 2 other girls giggled over something on a laptop. One of them glanced up at me with the vague politeness you give to someone's uncle or Uber driver, like I was just another errand Jenna didn't want to handle herself. Jenna was rearranging a tiny cactus on the windowsill. She had named it once. She used to tell me when it grew a new knob, back when I pretended to care about succulents and she pretended I was enough. "You good?" I asked. She nodded, still not looking at me. "Yeah, just trying to get settled. Greg might swing by later with a desk lamp." I said. No sarcasm, just that, a sound. Greg might swing by. Of course. I stood there for a moment longer, watching the sunlight spill over her textbooks. One still had the bookstore receipt inside, untouched. I could hear her dormmates laughing. One of them had a fake British accent, and it was driving me nuts. I didn't say goodbye. I just tapped her shoulder gently and left. She didn't notice I paused by the RA's office to pay the $37 parking fine she'd already forgotten about. Didn't see me later that day, sitting in the cab of my truck with a manila folder on the passenger seat. Inside, my final favor. I wired the remaining half of her tuition from my personal account. Quietly. No fanfare, no emojis, no thanks, Frank. She'd never know that without that wire she would have been locked out of class registration that Monday. She thought Greg would come through. She told Rachel he'd figured things out this time. Sure he had. I kept the receipt, folded it once, neat and crisp, and placed it inside the glove box next to her old softball photo, the one where her braces shone and she smiled so wide I thought my heart would explode. Then I drove to First State Bank and shut down the shared student account she'd been using for books, meal plans, and impulse Etsy garbage. I didn't tell her. No warning, no drama. I walked out of the bank with a small envelope of cashier's checks. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed the act. I needed to feel the finality, like closing a drawer, like locking a door behind me. Back home, Rachel was on the couch flipping through a home renovation magazine she'd never act on. "She get an okay?" she asked, still staring at the page. "She did," I said. "She mentioned Greg's bringing her that lamp." I said nothing more. Rachel looked up, maybe expecting me to react. I didn't. She waited a few seconds, then went back to the article. That night, I sat on the porch and smoked the last of the cigars Jenna had given me for Father's Day 2 years ago. She'd picked them out herself. The card said, "To the man who fixes everything." I let the ashes fall into an empty coffee mug. Then I crushed them down with the tip of my boot until there was nothing left but dust. And in that quiet, something in me, something solid, dependable, lovingly naive, finally let go. "Thanks, Frank." That's all she said. No eye contact. No "I'll miss you." No "take care." Just a quick hug, more of a shoulder bump, really, before she turned back toward her dorm hallway, one hand already digging into her tote bag for chapstick or her earbuds or God knows what. I could still smell the vanilla body spray she wore in high school. Same scent, different girl. Rachel had stayed in the car. She said her ankle hurt, claimed the steps would flare it up again, but I knew the truth. She didn't want to walk me to the door of the life I'd just been evicted from. I stood alone on that cement landing, watching Jenna disappear into the cluttered hallway, her name already forgotten by the girl she'd chosen over me. I let the door close behind her. Didn't knock, didn't call out. Just stood there a second too long, like some misplaced piece of furniture. When I got back to the car, Rachel was scrolling on her phone, probably Pinterest, maybe looking up air fryer recipes she'd never make. "You good?" she asked, eyes still glued to the screen. "Yeah," I said. "We're all good." She nodded, and that was it. "No, what's next for you? No, you okay with all this?" Just silence, brittle as old paint. Back at the house, I started packing that same night. Tools first. Always tools first. It's how I understand the world. Socket sets, calipers, levels, and chisels, all wrapped in old t-shirts, packed neat into Rubbermaid bins. I left the lathe, though. Too heavy. Too many memories tied to its hum. Next was Jenna's old bike. Pink frame, rust on the spokes. She hadn't touched it since middle school, but I'd oiled the chain every spring just in case. I loaded it into the truck bed and dropped it off at a local shelter. The volunteer smiled, said some girl would love it. I didn't answer. By midnight, the house was quiet. Rachel had gone to bed without a word. I stood in the kitchen staring at the faint outline her coffee mug left on the counter every morning. Then I wiped it clean. The next morning, I slipped out before sunrise. No note, no luggage at the front door. Just me, my truck, and a thermos of bad gas station coffee. I didn't tell Rachel about the cabin. Didn't tell Jenna I was leaving town. Didn't even take my phone charger. I drove north, windows cracked, letting the wind cut through the last heat of August. I passed the county line before the sun even cleared the treetops. By the time I crossed into Minnesota, the only thing behind me was static. The cabin sat quiet on the edge of a shallow lake surrounded by pine and mosquito hum. No cell signal, no television, just a generator, an old propane stove, and a cot with a thin mattress. Perfect. I set my toolbox on the porch and didn't go inside for hours. Just stood there, hands on the railing, listening. No footsteps, no questions, no one asking what I was doing there or when I'd be back. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an answer. Jenna stared at the unopened IKEA box in her living room like it personally offended her. It had been sitting there for 3 days, still sealed, corners slightly dented from where she dragged it across the floor. A cheap desk she ordered with a discount code and leftover bookstore money. She figured Greg would help put it together. That's what dads do, right? She'd even texted him ahead of time. "Hey, if you're free Saturday, maybe we can knock this out. Would love to catch up." He responded at 1:13 a.m. with a thumbs up emoji and "absolutely can't wait, kiddo." Saturday came and went. No Greg. Sunday morning, she woke up to a message. Sorry, sweetheart. Got caught up at work. Rain check. She read it twice, then typed no problem with a smiley face and tossed her phone face down on the pillow. Her roommate Emily asked if she wanted help with the desk. Nah, Jenna said. My dad's just busy. He'll come through. She said it like it was fact, like it had to be true. But that desk sat untouched another week. Then the microwave stopped working. She texted Greg again. Hey, think you could swing by with a tool set? I think the outlet's busted. No reply. She waited a full day before following up with, or maybe I can come to you. This time she got a voice memo. 45 seconds of Greg rambling in his car, traffic noises in the background about how things were nuts right now, and work had him doing double shifts and we'll figure something out soon, baby girl. She smiled when she listened to it. Played it twice, actually, just to hear him say baby girl. But then she noticed he didn't ask how school was going, didn't ask if she'd eaten, just talked, just noise. 2 days later, her roommate's dad drove 6 hours to drop off a futon and a full grocery haul. Jenna stayed in her room. She scrolled through old photos on her phone, one from senior year, Frank in a dusty flannel standing beside her at the DMV after she passed her road test. He was holding the car keys like they were made of gold. She had posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Couldn't have done it without my bonus dad." Red heart. Funny how fast a bonus becomes an afterthought. Tuition came up again in conversation when she met with her academic advisor. We still haven't received your final balance, he said gently. Just a heads up, registration for spring won't open until it's cleared. Oh yeah, that's coming, she said. My dad's handling it. She meant Greg. He wasn't. She tried calling him that night, straight to voicemail. She tried again the next morning, still nothing. The following weekend, he finally texted back, "Hey, had some stuff come up, let me circle back." Circle back. What the hell did that even mean? He wasn't a corporate manager. He was a bartender with a weed habit and a gym membership he hadn't used in 6 months. Jenna stared at the message for a long time before setting her phone down and walking outside barefoot. The air smelled like fried oil from the student union. Her stomach turned. When she came back inside, Emily was on the floor putting the desk together herself. Figured I'd just get started, Emily said. You can owe me a coffee. Jenna nodded, said thank you, then shut herself in her room and didn't come out until morning. She didn't cry, not yet. But for the first time, she didn't check her phone before bed. Jenna saw the subject line during her morning lecture, action required, tuition payment rejected. At first, she thought it was a phishing email, some scam. She almost deleted it until she noticed the .edu address was real and the student ID number matched hers. Her stomach tightened. She opened the email, skimmed, read it again. Your recent tuition payment was returned due to insufficient account authorization. Please resolve your balance within 7 business days to avoid course registration holds or possible suspension of campus housing privileges. She stopped breathing around the word suspension. Her mouth went dry. She left class without grabbing her bag. Outside, her fingers shook as she dialed Rachel. Hello? Her mom's voice. Casual, distracted. Did you see the email? Jenna's voice cracked. What email? My tuition. It bounced. The check bounced. There was a pause. Wait, I thought Frank was… Well, he's not, Jenna snapped. I thought you were keeping an eye on that. I haven't talked to him in weeks, Rachel said. I thought you were the one. Jenna, I don't even know where he is. Jenna stood by a row of campus mailboxes, gripping her phone like it owed her something. She exhaled through her nose, sharp and trembling. I don't have that money, she said. Do you? Rachel didn't answer. So Jenna tried Greg. He picked up on the 3rd ring, sounding like he'd just woken up. What's up, sweetie? My tuition bounced, she said. Wait. Seriously? Yes, seriously. You said you'd take care of the rest. Hang on. The sound of him fumbling with something, probably a vape pen. Didn't you say your stepdad paid for this stuff? Didn't he already cover it? I thought he would, she whispered, then louder. I thought he would. Greg sighed. All right, chill. How much are we talking? She told him. Dead silence on the line. I mean, I can try to pull some stuff together, he said slowly, but that's like, a lot. Like way more than I expected. Why didn't Frank say anything? He's not answering, she said. He hasn't texted. He hasn't called. He's just gone. You sure? Pretty damn sure, she snapped. Greg clicked his tongue, the universal sign of someone not planning to help but trying to sound like they're thinking really hard. Look, I'll call you back later, all right? I gotta figure something out. He didn't. That night, Jenna sat cross-legged on her dorm bed, staring at her laptop. She opened her campus financial portal. The balance was in red. Due immediately, $6,122.14. She stared at the number like it might blink or change if she waited long enough. It didn't. She opened her phone, scrolled through old texts from Frank. The last one had been almost a month ago. Fridge should be cold enough after 2 hours. Don't plug anything else into that wall. Breaker's finicky. No love you. No check-in after the move. Just appliance instructions. She opened the contact and tapped call. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Still nothing. Then she texted him. Frank, please, something's wrong. Can we talk? The 3 dots never appeared. She left her phone screen on until it dimmed and went dark. And that night, as the silence pressed heavier than ever, she finally began to understand. Frank hadn't forgotten her. He wasn't angry. He was done. Rachel called 6 times before noon. Then she left a voicemail. You didn't have to do this, Frank. I mean, God, you knew tuition was due. You knew how important this semester was. Are you punishing her or me? What kind of man just disappears when his family needs him? You raised her. You were there when Greg wasn't. Now you vanish. She's falling apart, Frank. He listened to the message on speaker while he carved notches into a pine beam by the lake, measuring out dovetails. He wasn't in a rush to finish. He didn't delete it. Didn't save it either. Just let it sit in his inbox, unheard by anyone but the squirrels and the distant loons. An hour later, another voicemail came in. This is sabotage. That's what this is. You're trying to teach her a lesson or whatever twisted thing you've cooked up in that quiet little brain of yours. You know she's not ready for this. You're punishing her for picking her father. He paused the recording at that word, father, and smiled to himself. One of those dry corner-of-the-mouth smiles that didn't reach his eyes. Meanwhile, Jenna had stopped eating. She wasn't starving herself exactly, just distracted. Late nights pacing the common room, staring at her bank app like it might grow zeros if she stared long enough. Her roommate Emily offered to lend her money. No, Jenna said. It's not your problem. Emily hesitated. I mean, wasn't Frank always the one paying for stuff? Jenna didn't answer. Another friend chimed in over lunch. I thought Frank was the one who drove you to every school trip. Didn't he build that shelf in your room from scratch? Someone else added. Didn't he take you prom dress shopping? Jenna pushed her tray away, lost her appetite completely. The questions kept coming. Quiet ones, whispered in corners, posted as throwaway comments on old Instagram pictures she hadn't thought about in years. One photo showed Frank under the hood of her Corolla, grease on his shirt, a hand raised to block the sun as he grinned like the proudest dad in Omaha. The caption had said, he fixes everything, even my panic attacks. Now she couldn't even look at it. She tried texting him again. Can we please talk? No reply. Then I miss you. I made a mistake. I just need 5 minutes, Frank. 5 minutes, still nothing. Meanwhile, Greg had gone back to one-word responses. When she texted about the bursar holding her registration, he replied, yikes. When she asked if he could send something, anything, even just $100 toward fees, he ghosted her completely. Rachel started lashing out, first at Jenna, then at herself. She paced the living room, muttering about how she should have known better, and how Greg always finds a way to disappear when the check comes due. Once Rachel blurted, if Frank hadn't gotten his feelings hurt, Jenna exploded. He didn't get his feelings hurt, he got replaced. Rachel went quiet after that. They both did. The silence filled the house thicker than drywall dust, the kind that creeps into your throat and makes it hard to swallow. And slowly, Jenna's image of Greg, the cool dad, the guy with the tattoos and Spotify playlists and relaxed parenting, began to crack because the cool dad was nowhere, and the man she'd left behind, he was silent. Not cruel, not bitter, just gone. By the 3rd day without a response, Jenna started counting Greg's lies like tally marks on a prison wall. Can't talk now. I'm slammed. Forgot my wallet. Can I Venmo you later? Didn't see your text till this morning. Sorry. Each one had sounded fine in the moment, reasonable, even sympathetic. But now, stacked together in her head, they stank like cheap cologne on a bad first date. And now there was nothing. No call, no reply, no hey kiddo, hang in there. Just unread messages and a status bubble that hadn't blinked since Thursday. She tried his Instagram. He posted a story 2 nights ago, a selfie from a bar, captioned Whiskey Wednesdays with the boys. He looked flushed, happy. A blonde, barely in frame, leaned toward him like she didn't care who saw. That was the same night she texted him, "Can you please help me with even part of the tuition?" He'd seen it. No response. The void was now a living thing, a shadow crawling up her throat. Her RA knocked one night to check if everything was okay after she missed 3 classes in a row. Jenna said it was just allergies. Rachel tried organizing a group call, one of those awkward FaceTime Frankenstein things where everyone's frozen and talking over each other. Jenna didn't even know how her mom convinced Greg to pick up. Frank didn't join. She knew he saw the invite. He had to. He still shared the family Apple calendar. His name popped up on the invite list, but he never even declined, just ignored it. Greg made it 5 minutes before his connection dropped. He never called back. Rachel cried after the call ended. Jenna didn't. Instead, she went digging and found an old photo in her Google Drive from her 16th birthday. Her hair curled, wearing that off-shoulder blue dress she swore she'd outgrown. Frank stood beside her in a baggy flannel, holding up a cake shaped like a car key. She remembered how embarrassed she'd been. She begged for something cooler, but he made the cake himself. Vanilla with strawberry filling. She posted the picture on Instagram with the caption, "Wish I'd known what I had." Then she waited 10 minutes. No likes, no comments, not even from Emily. Not even a pity emoji from the weird girl in her poli-sci class who liked everything. Just nothing. It sat there like a ghost, a private confession broadcast into a room full of people pretending not to hear it. By midnight, she almost deleted it. But she didn't. Instead, she stared at her phone for another hour, flicking between apps like a gambler waiting for a jackpot that wouldn't come. The silence wasn't just online, it was inside, heavy, absolute, like a hand pressed against her throat. For the first time, she didn't just miss Frank, she mourned him. And somehow that was worse. Professor Whitlow paused mid-lecture when he noticed Jenna staring straight ahead, her pen unmoving in her hand, eyes glassy but stubborn. It wasn't the first time. She'd been fading from her own life for weeks, showing up but not present, like someone on autopilot with a dying battery. After class, he caught her at the door. "Miss Kendrick?" She blinked, slow and dazed. "Yeah, you all right?" "I'm fine." It was mechanical, hollow. He didn't push, just handed her the graded essay she hadn't picked up last week. "If you ever need to talk, I'm around." Jenna opened her mouth to say thank you and felt something catch in her throat. "I think I messed up," she said instead. Quiet, almost embarrassed. Professor Whitlow didn't nod or frown or ask for more. He just waited. "I pushed someone out who didn't deserve it," she continued, voice barely above a whisper. "And now it's like he doesn't exist, like I broke something I don't know how to fix." He placed the paper in her hand gently. "Sometimes the silence isn't punishment, it's grief." She left his office and didn't cry until she got back to her dorm. The words echoed long after. Back in Omaha, the silence around Rachel wasn't grief, it was judgment. It started at the grocery store. Mrs. Trevors, the checkout lady who used to chat endlessly about coupons and grandkids, suddenly had somewhere to be. Didn't even say goodbye. Then the mailman, Pete, stopped asking how Jenna's semester was going. Didn't mention the weather, just handed over the envelopes and walked away without eye contact. At church it got louder. The pastor's wife used to save a seat beside her. Now she sat 2 rows up. Rachel found herself alone on a pew during the Sunday service. No shared hymnal, no passing of the plate. During coffee hour, a few women talked in hushed voices over near-empty styrofoam cups. One of them looked up then, leaned to whisper something. Another nodded. The judgment wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be, because everyone knew Frank. He wasn't flashy, didn't post his life online, but he built porches for half the neighborhood, fixed Mrs. Kramer's basement steps for free, and never missed a PTA meeting even when Jenna was just in the chorus. He never boasted, never asked for thanks, and now he was gone. Not dead, not even angry, just erased, and people noticed. The whispers started small. "I heard she moved in with her real dad. Didn't Frank raise her since she was a kid? And now she's asking him for money again. Typical." Rachel tried to push back once over coffee with 2 old friends, Gloria and Diane. She made some comment about Frank's ego, about how men just vanish when they don't get their way. Gloria stirred her tea, then said flat as concrete, "Frank fixed my fence when Gary threw his back out." In January, Rachel didn't finish her muffin. Diane just shook her head and said, "Some men don't vanish, Rach. They just stop showing up for the wrong people." By the end of the week, Rachel noticed the kids across the street had stopped waving, the same kids Frank used to teach how to whittle with his pocket knife. And she realized Frank hadn't just raised Jenna. He'd raised trust, community, quiet goodwill in a world full of people too busy to notice the steady hands holding it all together. And now that he was gone, they noticed. Rachel's voice cracked halfway through the first message. "You raised her. You loved her. We need your help, Frank, please." The message had no edges, just pleading, no anger left, no accusations. She sounded like a woman standing on a frozen lake, hearing the first splinters crack beneath her boots. He didn't listen twice. He poured his coffee, watched steam roll up the cracked window of the cabin, and let the silence refill the room. 2 hours later, another voicemail landed. "She's hurting, Frank. Really hurting. She doesn't sleep. She barely eats. She's scared. And Greg's not showing up. You were always the one who showed up. Please don't do this. Don't let her drown." Frank turned the volume down, listened once, then opened the weather app on his phone. Cold front coming in. Should chop wood before sundown. The phone buzzed again. Not a call this time, a message from Jenna. "Simple, Dad. I'm sorry. Please just say something." He read it. Let it sit there like a lit match on dry grass. It took him a full minute to breathe again. Not because he didn't care, but because he did, too much. She'd called him Dad, not Frank, not hey, not can we talk, just Dad. And for a moment, just a flicker, his hand hovered above the screen. He thought about replying. Not with anger, not with anything sharp, just something real. A sentence. Maybe a word. Anything. But the weight of the last year, the last month, the echo of all the things she didn't say back when it counted, pressed against his chest like wet cement. Where had this girl been when he carried her fridge up those stairs? Where had this voice been when she chose someone else over the man who never missed a parent-teacher conference? Where was this apology when he signed off from her life, like a man turning in a work badge he'd worn with pride? No, it was too late. So Frank did the only thing he had left. He tapped delete. No reply, no dots, no typing, just silence once again, taking its seat beside him like an old friend who didn't need to talk. He set the phone down, stepped outside, and split a fresh log clean through the middle with a single swing. In a dorm 2 states away, Jenna stared at her screen for hours. No response. She checked her signal, refreshed the app, waited, hoped, nothing. She whispered the word please to an empty room, then turned the phone face down on her nightstand. And just like that, hope, quietly, without fanfare, folded in on itself and died. By October, Jenna was working 20 hours a week folding sweaters at a campus clothing store called Lake Threads, where the AC always ran too cold, and the manager spoke to everyone like a kindergarten teacher who hated children. She took the job because she had no choice. Meal card balance ran dry the second week of the month. The bursar let her stay enrolled for now, but the late fees were climbing like ivy, slowly wrapping around her neck. She sold the futon Greg said he'd help her buy, but never did. Canceled Spotify. Ate cereal for dinner. One night, she cried in the walk-in stockroom between shifts, pressing her forehead to a box of knockoff jeans, while the fluorescent lights above flickered like they were mocking her. Greg, he hadn't texted in over 2 weeks. His last message read, "Hang in there, sweetie. I'll send something soon." That was 19 days ago. She stopped checking. Rachel, too, was unraveling in her own quiet ways. Working weekends at a downtown diner she used to make fun of. Silver-haired waitresses with tired smiles and cracked voices who'd been there since Reagan. Rachel wore a name tag now, poured bottomless coffee into chipped mugs for men who didn't tip. She came home smelling like old bacon and grease she couldn't wash off her hands. Every once in a while she'd scroll to Frank's name in her phone. Never called, never dared. Meanwhile, up north, Frank had just finished sanding the edges of a cedar birdhouse. He painted it blue, Jenna's favorite color once, when she was 9 and obsessed with sky tones and glitter crayons. He didn't name it, just hung it up beside the cabin and watched as a chickadee poked its head inside. The phone sat beside his mug of black coffee, screen dark forever on silent. He didn't check it anymore, didn't need to. One Thursday, after an early class, Jenna sat outside the student center with a lukewarm paper cup of instant cocoa she'd snagged from the break room. Her hair tied back in a low bun, wrinkles forming beneath her eyes. Stress lines she never used to have. Her hoodie sagged over her frame like it belonged to someone bigger, someone less brittle. A freshman sat beside her, didn't know her story, just trying to make conversation. You ever talk to the guy who raised you, the carpenter dude? Jenna looked up, blinking like she'd been underwater. Then, with the smallest shake of her head, she said, voice soft and final, no. He's gone. Not angry, not bitter, just gone. The freshman didn't ask again. Jenna took a sip of her cocoa, watched steam rise into the autumn air. A leaf skittered across the pavement in the wind. And that was it. Not a scream, not a reunion. Just a girl who chose wrong, a mother who backed the wrong man, and a man who walked away without slamming a door because some exits echo louder when left open. In the woods, Frank lit a fire and watched it crackle. The wind carried smoke across the lake, and the silence, for once, felt complete.